for quarterfinal number 2 here on Long Island. It's an all-Ivy League affair. Princeton, the 5 seed, against Yale, the 4 seed. The Tigers looking to get to championship weekend for the first time since 2004. The last 2 times Yale played a full season, they reached the national semifinals, winning a championship in 2018. Earlier today, Rutgers held off Penn 11-9. The Scarlet Knights closed that game on a 5-1 run. Rutgers to championship weekend for the first time. Will it be a Jersey sweep on Strong Island, or do we get to see Handsome Dan and Yale up in East Hartford in the national semifinals? In East Schroff, Paul Carcaterra, 1 team to the semis. Rutgers, that's in the books. Yale, Princeton, a regular season rematch. And boy, the Yale attack. You did the game last week against St. Joe's. Unstoppable, 11 goals, 7 assists.
Yeah, Matt Brandow is the veteran. He's played in championship weekend games in 2019. He's the proven entity. Leads the Ivy League in points per game. He does it with the right hand from a dodging and feeding perspective. But he's brought along these 2 youngsters. Leo the lefty, Leo Johnson, is another quarterback for the Yale Bulldogs. Exceptional dodging and passing ability. Chris Lyons is the righty shooter. He can stretch it from the outside. He's got soft enough hands to finish in tight. This is a complete unit.
This was a unit that accounted for 18 points in the round 1 win against St. Joe's. Brandow, 5 goals, 3 assists in the regular season against Princeton. For the Tigers, they spin it like few other teams. Surgical in their 6-on-6. Brown last week, 5 assists in round 1 against Boston University.
The senior, you look at his maturation. He was a lefty goal scorer when he played with Michael Sowers. His assist totals as a senior, more than his entire career combined. He's been the established quarterback at 6'2", 200 pounds. He plays with pressure, and I think he's one of the most underrated players in college lacrosse.
He is 1 goal shy of 100 for his career. One of 5 captains on an experienced Princeton team. We know about Yale's championship pedigree. 2018, they win a national title. 2019, they're in the championship game. 2020 season cut short. Nobody in the Ivies played in 2021. No surprise to see Yale back here, but it's the way they got back here. Andy Shea thought he would rely on his veterans, and it has been the emergence of young stars. You mentioned Leo Johnson and Chris Lyons, just to name a couple.
And their defense has been kind of their question mark, right? They've been exposed the last month of the season, letting up 15 goals a game. This is a program that plays with toughness, plays with grit, and the defense has to be able to match the precision of the Princeton offense.
Their best defense this year has been that Valkyrian ride, and that's going to be a challenge for Matt Madelon's Princeton Tigers. Yale can turn you over, but so can Princeton. The Tigers, 2nd nationally in caused turnovers per game, behind only the team that they beat last week, Boston University.
They have George Bond, who is an eraser of defender. And this is a big story in this game. In the first matchup, Matt Brandow has the 5 goals, 3 assists. George Bond, 17 in black, was not on him. Today he is. And this is a matchup that we've all been waiting for.
It is the 107th meeting all time between Princeton and Yale. Only the 2nd time they've met in the postseason. Tyler Sandoval wins the opening faceoff for the Tigers. They get to work quickly on offense, and it's Colter Mcassey, the freshman, going top shelf. He struggled last week in his postseason debut, just 1 for 8 shooting. Gets a good look off the Sandoval faceoff win, and it's 1-0 Tigers.
You mentioned he struggled last week, but he's played awesome this season. Colter Mcassey, when you watched late in the year, dominated the Yale game. And then into the Ivy League, he's always had an ability with a quick burst and a right-handed shot to make plays. In Princeton's lacrosse history, when you think of freshmen being impact players, only Michael Sowers, Ryan Boyle have scored more points, along with Kevin Lowe as well, than Colter Mcassey. He's the 4th best scorer from a freshman perspective.
Another face-off win. Here comes Princeton. Save Jared Paquette. Jake Stevens, the shot on goal. Podcast clear. And we get a whistle. It'll be Yale ball. Princeton scoring 7 seconds into the game already. A couple of good looks. Paquette, who made that save, had a career-high 19 when these two met in March. Eric Peters last week was unstoppable against BU, 15 out of 20 in round 1. Princeton struggled defensively in its last 2 games of the regular season. Boy, they turned it up all the way in round 1, holding BU to just 5 goals. Peters with the early save after Leo Johnson dusted his defender.
That's a matchup that will dictate this game. Leo Johnson's quickness and first step. I don't know if Colin Mulshine can match Leo Johnson's explosiveness in space.
Bo Pedersen streaking toward the cage. Paquette denies on the doorstep. Jared Paquette, think about how he earned the starting job of beating out Jack Starr, who had been the netminder on 2 Yale teams that played on Memorial Day, including a championship team in 2018. Chris Lyons, a freshman, inserted into the starting lineup in Game 5, and he's had a hat trick in 8 of 12 games. Now Brandow, that's the matchup, 41-17, Brandow and Bond. Back to Brandow, 97 points on the season, tied for 3rd all-time at Yale. Thomas Bragg, he's got a hammer from the outside. Jack Montfort had it stick checked away. Shot clock at 22, and that's a turnover, so Princeton gets it back. And early on, I mean, Princeton picking up where it left off last week. You're seeing it on both sides.
They dominated that matchup against BU, holding BU's offense.
Now there's the Yale ride. Lions from the wing, 5-hole, tied at 1. Defensively, you can poke a lot of holes in what Yale has done all season, but that ride is as great a weapon as there is in this sport right now.
They practice it a ton. They perfected it. Yale goal is Princeton held BU's attack scoreless last week. You're not holding this Yale offense scoreless. Leo Johnson, as good of a freshman attackman you will find. The versatility of his game. You saw him dodging earlier in the first quarter. Now at the spot feed to Chris Lyons from this spot on the field has become automatic.
There's a built-in NIL with those two, Leo and Lyons. Sandoval won the majority of the draws the first time against Yale. Ramsey wins that one. The pass to Brandow out of bounds. A couple of turnovers now for Yale. And Bone will set up the clear. Here is the ride. Goalie is out. It is a 10-man ride. Really a 9.5, I should say, with the goalie hedging.
I like the way they play the goalie because they kind of negate the whole half-field scoring threat.
Princeton able to clear. In transition, this one.
Number 19, Alexander Vardaro.
Alexander Vardaro took that shot. He had 4 goals in the first meeting against Yale. Part of that first midfield with Sam English and Christian Rondo. Vardaro having a breakout season, working on Patrick Hackler.
He can shoot, 19 in black.
Hackler knocks it away. He's a threat in transition, a converted offensive midi. Hackler, nobody picks him up, shoots and scores.
In the first half of the St. Joe's game in round 1, 26 in white was the most impactful player for the Yale Bulldogs because of plays just like this. Locking down as a short stick defensive midfielder, but the green light of an offensive midi who finds pay dirt right between the legs. That's when Peters wants to explode to. Give his defense an opportunity to close the door, but Hackler has the green light.
Sandoval, 15 out of 18 in round one. Ramsey, 8 for 22 in the first meeting against Princeton. Wings get involved. Now a 3-on-2 there for Yale. And Pace Billings vacuums. Princeton will set up its clear. You'll see Princeton rotate defensively. Expect George Bond to stay on most of the time. See a lot of 26, Cahal Roberts, the junior born in Dublin. Princeton turns it over, trying to clear. Lyons trying to pick up the grounder. Ben Finley all over him. And again, that's 2 now, but Yale is 1 back with the ride. Here comes Brian Tevlin, Yale's solo captain. On the run, whips it too high.
Here's the matchup. Matt Brandow, 41 in white. George Bond, the eraser, 17 in black.
You talked to Michael Sowers this week, the former Princeton Tiger great. What did he tell you about facing George Bond?
Hardest matchup he's ever had. That's the most prolific scorer in Princeton history saying that. They battled in high school, they battled in practice at Princeton. He said he is so tough and relentless. Those guys would just go at it.
Christian Kropp. Now Brad Sharp. Talented freshman, bounces one on the run.
Number 13, Brian
Sharp has just taken his game to a next level down the stretch this season for Yale. You're looking at a future first-team All-American midfielder.
He moves differently. He's got speed and balance.
There's Sharp again on Billings, wins his matchup and scores. From Palos Verdes Estates, California, not exactly a lacrosse hotbed. Andy Shea was telling us they watched a lot of his high school film. He didn't face the best competition, but they saw the raw potential in Brad Sharp.
Andy and I exchanged texts a couple of years ago when Brad Sharp was in high school. And I said his balance, to me, was off the charts. And the best players in the world have this type of balance. When you watch Lyle Thompson play, who plays for the PLL Cannons, when he is contacted, he doesn't lose his base. It's the same thing with Brad Sharp. You saw the defense extend to him. You saw the defense to play pressure and play physical. He didn't lose his lane.
The last game was kind of low scoring. This one won't be. We found that out early. Already a furious pace. Yale has been the team in the Ivy really over the past decade. Princeton was that team for almost 2 decades, from the early 90s all the way through the early part of the 2000s. Bill Tierney won 6 titles with the Tigers. Turned a nothing program into a blue blood.
Yale is the standard, a lot like Cornell was in the 70s and 80s behind Richie Moran. Now the league is off the charts in terms of the parity.
Great look here by Vergaro. 6 Ivy League teams made the NCAA tournament, more than any other conference. Double the league that had the second most, the Big Ten. Rhonda losing Eschbach, plays it up top. Mcassey, save Paquette. Rebound, Brown battling for it. Long Island Express congestion, and it's Rhonda who comes away with it. New shot clock, and resets to 60 for Princeton.
That's huge for Yale, not to be able to get the ball out of their zone off of a save from Paquette. When they're tired, they're vulnerable.
Good look there by Vardaro. We saw it in the first meeting. We're seeing it a little bit today. Vardaro looks like he can get a shot against his matchup. Mcassey around the bend. Save Paquette. Clock will reset back to 60. It stays with Princeton.
A vulnerable defense in the East. You want to make the stop. You want to clear it out. This is a team that's been exposed on this side of the field, giving Princeton free shot clocks.
Another save by Paquette. The reality for Yale, this will stay with Princeton. Clark, the reality is, given the state of this defense, Jared Paquette's going to have to make 15-plus saves at a minimum for Yale.
And he can do it. We've seen him do it quite a bit over the last month.
He's got 4 already. There's Brown sitting on 99 career goals. Plays it to the wing. There's Paquette, 5 saves, standing on his head early. Yale comes away with it.
That's what they need. Make the stop, get it out.
Brandau and Vaughn. Brandau, the only 2-time 50-goal scorer in Yale history. Ben Reeves never did it. Surprisingly, John Reese never did it.
I think Chris Lyons is going to have a chance to do it later on in his career.
Montfort swims past his man, looking to feed inside, and a turnover for Yale. And now, this becomes a pivotal part of the game. Princeton's already had 2 failed clears against this ride. Wethington into the box for Princeton. 14 in black, fun player to watch. Da Vinci and cleats, Jake Stevens, he can do it all.
Unbelievable. Best ground ball guy in the Ivy League.
Not to mention 20-plus goals.
Yes, does everything.
Brown, there's that skip. Stevens, his pass hits the ground. Looking for Tommy Barnes, second midfield on for Princeton. Last touch, Yale, so Princeton ball. Outside of Stevens, the second midfield has not been that much of a threat for the Tigers. Barnes, who has it, began the year on attack. Great feed, shot, score. It's Stevens from Barnes. And it's 3-2.
He might be the best ground ball short stick in the entire country, but it's his versatility. He can play on the wing on a face-off. You are in a pinch, you can play him at man down. He's also a big-time finisher inside. Great wrists, great awareness, and the ability to can it in tight. Stevens is a jack of all trades, master of all.
In round 1, Princeton's defense set the tone. Chris Brown had 5 assists. Alex Slusher, a hat trick. And the Tigers jumped out to a 4-0 start. Eric Peters, sensational in goal. They shackled BU 12-5. You did this game. Yale got everything it could handle from St. Joe's.
St. Joe's showed you they belong with the big boys. They have some incredible lacrosse players who don't quit. But the Yale offense, Leo Johnson, late in the 4th quarter, snipes that from the high left wing. Andy Shea's got some young guys who have bright futures, to say the least.
Andy Shea said after the St. Joe's game, one of the hardest games we have ever had to play, and an unlikely hero was backup face-off man James Ball, who in the 4th quarter went 4 for 6 against St. Joe's Zach Cole, statistically the top fogo in the land.
Well, that was nuts because he had less than 30 face-offs the entire season. James Ball, talk about the mental toughness. This is a kid who wants to be a Navy SEAL one day. You put him out in that spot, he delivers.
His dad has almost a godlike reputation amongst Navy SEALs. The way they talk about him. It runs in the family. Here comes Chris Brown. English, the Canadian, ran into traffic. It kicks back to Vardaro. Brown probing from the wing.
Brown wants his left. 6 in black, wants to test fake with the left hand.
That's a good matchup on this end. We talked about Brandau and Bond. Brown against fake. $15 to shoot. Vardaro working against Hackler. Over to Slusher. Ball trickles toward midfield. Shot clock at 5. Big hit by Fake. Over and back. And it will be Yale ball. Chris Fake lets you feel it the next day, and it's real. And it's spectacular. Ben Finley comes up with it. Boy, there's a pace to this game, huh?
Love it. It's 90 degrees.
Chance here for Princeton in transition. Crimmins tied at 3.
If you can escape the first layer, Anish, of that Yale ride, you will get opportunities to strike in transition. You look at the save by Peters, who's had a fantastic senior campaign. He stands his ground, gives his offense life from the defensive end. Crimmins places that ball, the bottom left corner on a righty goalie.
What scares you if you're Yale with the ride, Princeton has D-middies who can make you pay. Crimmins, a converted offensive midi. So is Bo Pedersen. Stevens, again, is another guy. He doesn't really play D-midi this year. Can go 2 ways. Gives you that instant transition. That's something you got to worry about if you're Yale.
Stevens doesn't play D-midi, but he plays the wing, so he gets caught on defense a lot. But then you get him in the transition game.
Tommy Barnes with an assist today. Sophomore out of California. Working on Christian Johnson. Shot clock reset, that hit the pipe. Here comes Colter Mcassey. Shot on the run, save Paquette. 7 first-quarter saves for Jared Paquette. He made a career-high 19 in the March win against Princeton. Standard ride by Princeton. Yale having some trouble. And another turnover by the Elis. That's 5.
You got to catch that.
Got to. I know the score's only 3-3 because the goalies have made some saves, but there's a Hagler-Hearns first round feel to this first quarter.
Pace.
How about Rhonda breaking a double team? Chance now for Princeton, unsettled. Slusher, good look, too high.
Shot by number 5, Alex
We're talking about Oregon today, game 1. Ross Scott, Sam Handley. Throw Alex Slusher part of that Oregon trail, too.
Maryland on close defense, their second best option this season, Ajax Zapatello, sophomore out of Oregon. The talent there, Sam Handley, Tucker Dordovic.
Peter Baum, sort of the godfather, former Tewaaraton winner at Colgate. Ryan Powell, the Syracuse great, coached in that area for a number of years, really helped to grow and develop talent.
Success breeds success, right? 10 years ago, Peter Baum was the Tewaaraton winner from the state of Oregon. At that point in time, there's a lot of young kids in the state, right, that wanted to be the next Peter Baum. Well, guess what? There's a slew of them right now dominating college lacrosse, and it's awesome.
It's great to see. Atkinson running out of the box. Princeton waiting for its offensive personnel. Here's Sean Cameron. His brother Brian headed to championship weekend, an attackman for Rutgers. Big day for the Cameron family on Long Island. Here's Chris Brown, fake, not yielding an inch. Brown's got to give it up. English has it knocked away. Tevlin does it all.
He does. He's the motor, he's the lifeline, he's the single captain of Yale, and he makes plays like that.
heartbeat of the team. That time he overthrows Lions. 7 first quarter turnovers for Yale. A lot of them unforced.
Yeah, the last 2, the blown clear, and then the transfer there.
English to Billings on the doorstep, ducking underneath. It's Slusher. Three straight from Princeton after Yale scored 3 in a row to take a 3-1 lead.
7 turnovers in a quarter equals disaster mode. And if you give a team like Princeton, who can deal with precision, and we mentioned the state of Oregon, Alex Slusher is a right-handed goal scorer that is automatic in those spots.
James Ball at the face-off X for Yale. And the Eli's have possession. Ball staying out there with Sandoval, so 5-on-5 for Yale, and now they'll run off.
If I'm Yale right now, I'm understanding that Matt Brandow has a big-time matchup. You have the luxury of having a second quarterback in Leo Johnson. I want 6 in white handling the ball as a quarterback. He can make plays as a dodger and a passer.
Here comes Johnny Kibe. Now Lions from X. Thomas Bragg, he steps inside that white line. He's a threat. 30 seconds to go. I know you really like number 7, Kibe.
Very smart, tremendous lacrosse IQ. Watching him on tape, I rarely see him make a mistake. He's always in the right spot, spacing-wise, too.
Brandow against Bond, who fights through the pick. Brandow backing down. Bond stays with him, shot wide.
Bond's going down swinging. You're not going to be able to beat George Bond cleanly. The thing is, though, the counter to that, Matt Brandow shoots through pressure and has the ability to score without beating guys as well as anyone.
And that's the end of quarter number 1. After Rutgers' 2-goal win against Penn. 7 of the last 9 quarterfinal games have been decided by 1 or 2 goals. 6 have gone into OT. We have a 1-goal game 15 minutes in between these 2 Ivy League foes. Late March in New Haven, home of the best pizza in America. Princeton met Yale. There was some hail, there was some weather early in this game. Yale led by 3. That was their largest lead of the game. Paquette, 19 saves, a career high. Brandow was unstoppable. 5 goals, 3 assists. At the time, his second 8-point game in 3 outings. This game featured 106 shots, and we already have 24 just in the first quarter. The concerning part for Yale, 16 of those 24 shots from Princeton, 12 of those 16 on goal. Yale is asking a lot from its goalie right now.
Too much. He has 8 saves. He's on pace for 32. That would be a record in NCAA lacrosse. You just can't ask your goalie, the Long Island native, grew up about a half an hour from Hofstra, West Islip.
Princeton now 6 out of 9 at the X. Andy Shea trusting his sophomore James Ball at the X more and more. He earned it after last week. Kark, when you watch Princeton in these settled 6-on-6 sets, they're as good as anybody. What makes them so lethal?
Well, their ability to shoot from the outside, but they also have really creative players like Colter Mcassey that can beat you off of ball movement, right? So when you spin the ball, they're really good at dodging poor approaches. And Yale has poor approaches.
On the rebound, Ronda doubles it to Mcassey. New shot clock. There's Sam English. Sam English right through the defense. Paquette again, the bailout. Oh, we saw that in the St. Joe's game. No help, no recovery.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Like their angles and their approaches, Yale defensively create good shooting opportunities. In the first quarter, how many shots are they getting on cage there if you're Princeton?
12.
On cage, that's ridiculous.
You extrapolate that over the course of a game, you're on pace for 48 shots on goal. Four 3, Princeton on top of Yale. Tigers last reached championship weekend in 2004. Ryan Boyle was on that team. Leo Johnson comes to Lions. Now that's Prop. Prop using the pick, top side. Off the mark, back up by Brandow, and here's our matchup again, Brandow and Vaughn, and so far, Brandow has been a non-factor. Timeout, Matt Madelon and Princeton. 13-17 to go, first half. Tigers lead by 1.
The Princeton dynasty of the past was real. In 1992, it was Andy Moe who scored the winner against Syracuse for the first national title. 94, Kevin Lowe led the charge. 96, 97, 98, Hess, Hubbard, and Massey, amazing. And then Ryan Boyle was part of the last championship weekend appearance in 2004. It's been a drought as of late, but the Tigers are back.
And Boyle had the game-winning assist in that 2001 title game against Syracuse. Boyle to Prager, B.J. Prager in overtime. Since Bill Tierney left, Princeton, up until this year, had only been to the NCAA tournament twice, and they had not won a playoff game in the post-Tierney era until last week.
Yeah, the three-peat, 96, 97, 98. Hess, Hubbard, and Massey, for my money, the best attack of all time because how well they complemented each other. They were unbelievable, and unfortunately, I had to play against them.
They had some greats come through. The early teams anchored in goal by Scott Bacigalupo.
David Morrow, National Defender of the Year, wore the same number as George Bond, 17. Invented the titanium shaft as well, which changed the way defenders handled the ball because how light the stick became.
Early 2000s, remember the battles between Damian Davis and Mikey Powell.
Legendary.
Yale under Andy Shea was a team for much of the last decade, knocking at the door, got close, could never break through. And then when they broke through, they took Lacrosse by storm in 2018. I remember we were in New York for the Ivy League tournament. When Yale got off the bus, you, myself, and Quint did a collective whoa.
Yes, they broke through physically, right? They just looked different.
Christian Ronda, 3 goals in round 1. He's got 1 in the quarters. And a 2-goal lead for the Tigers.
Paquette has been spectacular. Look at the Princeton faithful jumping up and down, knowing this opportunity. With the recent drought, Paquette just doesn't look like he gets a read on this one, Anish. But Ronda shoots across his body to the far pipe, so Paquette is actually hedging the other side of the pipe. And Ronda, the sharpshooter, look at the torque too, the motion in his upper body, the snap and the hip movement allowed that shot to have a lot of mustard on it.
He is one of a school record 7 20-goal scorers for Princeton. They get offense from a lot of places. Ramsey won the faceoff, stumbles down, lost the ball. And there is Stevens, a human Roomba. Slusher. This is how they spin it. Brown feeding the cutter. Cameron, he scores. 5 unanswered by Princeton.
This is what Chris Brown gives you now. A spectacular pass in transition, the anticipation of the cut, but it starts with Stevens, who dominates the floor with ground balls. And credit Cameron, much smaller than his older brother, who can soak checks. He eats 2 Yale defenders on his way to pay dirt. That's the maturation of Chris Brown. In the past years, Chris Brown was a shoot-first type of player. The vision and the passing of 6 and black.
We've seen it. Teams want to turn Brown into a passer. He had 5 assists against BU. In the first game against BU, he had 7 assists.
And teams that have played him as a passer, I mean, that's his go-to is the lefty shot from the outside and on the high lefty wing. He will beat you multiple ways. What is that, by the way?
2 goals in 19 seconds. I think that's how you cool off.
That's a great ice-like hat, right? Figures a Princeton kid figured that one out. I never saw that in high school or college. Look at that. He needs it. That's Stevens right there, who's a workhorse. He will log as many minutes as any Princeton player in the past, other than maybe Zach Currier.
Rutgers advancing to championship weekend for the first time in program history. They used a 5-1 closing run to knock off Penn in the quarters. Rutgers gets the winner of Cornell, Delaware. The Blue Hens don't sleep on the fight in Evan Washburn's. Their first round win against Georgetown, there was nothing fluky about it.
Absolutely not. J.P. Ward at the attack, over 30 goals, 30 assists. They have a sharp shooting lefty Canadian from the factory known as Culver, named Michael Robinson, who can fill it up with the best of them. A teammate of Jake Stevens.
Cornell, you got C.J. Kirst, so you could see C.J. Kirst against Rutgers goalie Colin Kirst, and that is attackman against goalie. There is some family drama boiled into that one.
That's an awful situation to be in if you're a family member, and you'll always kind of lean on the goalie, right?
Did you play your brother?
I did.
Right?
Yes.
How was that for mom and dad?
It's terrible for mom and dad. Mom and dad will always favor the goalie because of the pressure of that position, right? So they're going to want Colin, who actually is a senior too, and CJ has 3 more years of eligibility. They're going to want CJ to have a nice day, but at the end of the day, they're going to want Colin with the victory.
Here comes Lions. We remind you, NCAA men's lacrosse coverage continues next weekend for the semis. Saturday at noon Eastern on ESPN2 is when our coverage begins. NCAA.com, your home for all 90 NCAA championships. Carson Kuhl spins it back to Leo. He's got the matchup against Mulshine. Leo Johnson back to Montfort, who's come on down the stretch. Montfort fakes the pass over to Bragg. Carson Kuhl down the alley on Andrew Song. Save Peters. And it's Princeton defense. Listen, they're not going to hold Yale to 5 goals, but this is not the same defense that we saw the last 2 games of the regular season. Much better.
Way more dialed in. That bye or that week off, not having the Ivy Championship, let them reset. They didn't go to Brown in Providence.
And George Bond so far has deleted Matt Brandow. Only 1 shot 20 minutes into the game.
That's why I'm saying Leo Johnson just has to assume that quarterback role, because Brandow just doesn't look like he's going to get involved in the action.
Sam English, right hand free, breaks through the double, save Paquette. It comes back behind the net. Brown able to recover. New shot clock for Princeton. 11 first half saves for Jared Paquette.
And English, 15 in black, just slices through the heart of the Yale defense again without a body being thrown.
English has only had 1 game this year where he was held scoreless It was against Yale. He's had a couple of good looks. Brown backing down Alexander. There's Mcassey. He's got a photon fast release. English, the crafty Canadian. Down the alley. And that's in. It's Verdaro. 6 unanswered for Princeton. Paquette can't bail them out every time.
It looked like he had no angle in each. Last time against Yale, Alexander Verdaro had 4 goals and 2 assists. He was the bright spot for the Tigers. Hits the bottom pipe, and it looks like it hits the backside of Paquette. Crosses the goal line, and Princeton is rolling.
7 different goal scorers for the Tigers. Ramsey able to win the clamp. Leo Johnson missed the cage. Is there anything Yale can do? Pick game to get Brandow a little more involved to switch the matchup.
He's got a great defender on him. That's the bottom line. George Bond is an eraser. He leads the Ivy League and caused turnovers per game.
Save Peters. The outlet to Wethington. That's how you beat a ride. Yale milling in retreat. Mcassey carries in. Princeton settles. Second midfield now. Here's Jamie Atkinson, one of 5 senior captains for Princeton. Stevens working on Johnson. Back to X, Mcassey. Checked by Michael Alexander. Rather Bryce DeMuth. Mcassey now has the shorty Eschbach. Mcassey has his second. And the Tigers out of the gates like they missed breakfast.
He's too quick for Eschbach. Look at the first step and the change of direction by the freshman, Colter Mcassey. He's got Eschbach right here on the wing. That change of direction is too much. The hips can't match the hips.
In round 1, Mcassey was 1 for 8 shooting and missed a few good looks. And they let him know about it during the week in film study. It's a freshman, but you're late in the season. You're not a freshman anymore. And they expect things out of him. Boy, has he answered the bell now in his second NCAA tournament game.
He has. And the bottom line is he benefits from not having to be the guy, right? Chris Brown is the leader of this unit. Slusher, 5 in black, is an established college lacrosse player. You put Colter Mcassey in this spot, and he's flourished.
And Matt Madelon said give a lot of credit to Brown and Slusher for bringing him along. Verdaro whips it. Shot clock reset, that would be raised to the post. Mcassey using the pick, gets the shorty, missed the cage, had a good look. The problem now for Yale, Princeton's going downhill, they're winning faceoffs. It's Ginder, it's Sandoval. You don't have TD Erlin anymore.
You've turned the ball over a lot too. Maybe not in this last onslaught of goals by the Tigers but you had a position to separate your lead in the first quarter if you didn't turn it over so much.
7 first quarter turnovers, 9 for the game. Ronda cranks. There's another save. That might have got a piece of the crossbar as well. Closest to the ball when it goes out. Awarded possession on a shot. And that resets the shot clock to 60. You just get a sense the longer Yale has to play defense, you're creating more time for something to go wrong. Here comes Brown.
They had to drop into a zone here.
Do you like the move?
You almost have to out of desperation. You're not able to play man against them.
English thought about it. Step down Vardaro, save Paquette. On the rebound, Ronda off the pipe. And Paquette able to come up with it. His pass over the head of Hackler, who keeps it in bounds.
Zone tells me you believe in Paquette, right? He had 10 saves in the first quarter. You see the stare down with Vardaro when he was, I don't know, 12 yards. Paquette wins it.
Paquette's got 14. He's on pace to break the single-game NCAA tournament record of 30 by Steve Kavovit.
1991. Maryland visiting Brown. First round of the playoffs. He was unbelievable in that matchup against a Brown team that had Darren Lowe and Andy Towers and Oliver Marty.
Oliver Marty shares the NCAA single-game tournament record for goals, 9. Here comes Lyons against Finley. Lyons stings the corner through the contact. And Yale ends a 7-0 Princeton run.
You drop into the zone, you allow your defense to breathe. You're having a tough time matching the quickness of Princeton in man. Paquette comes up with a save, the 2 pipes. And then your freshman Lyons, who was inserted into the lineup earlier in the season against Cornell and has never looked back. He is a righty scorer. This time he takes it to the rack with his offhand. They need that kind of playmaker with Brandow not in the mix.
Lyons, a great story. He missed the fall, didn't play the first 4 games. A young man who found out he had diabetes when he first got to campus, then had a back injury, which was a result of the diabetes, lost a bunch of weight. Andy Shea didn't know if he was going to be a factor. They got to a point where they said, we got to put him in a game and see what happens. He's played in 12 games entering today, 8 hat tricks.
Well, he was playing midfield, and they were short on attackmen, so they had him playing scout attack. So for any scout player out there, if you dominate and force your coach's hand, you'll get your opportunity.
Here comes Sharp. He's got some shake. Beats Crimmins. Peters the save. And a flag flies in. Might get a push with possession. And if Yale is to go man up, they will. Yale gets to unleash the man-up machine.
I feel like it's Mariano Rivera, right? It's a push, 30 seconds. Get the reset, right? Like when he walks on the field, you just think like, okay, here comes the heat. 45 in white. Watch out. If you do not press out on this guy, goalies have no shot.
Exit light, enter night. Here's Bragg. Leads the nation with 13 man-up goals, 45 in white. Brandow, that shot blocked. Ball on the ground. Kaib couldn't scoop it up. It came back to Peters. Bragg whiffs. Lyons has it knocked loose. Princeton in transition. Luca Lazaretto, 7 in black, the hustle. And Princeton able to kill off that penalty. Yale's man up, connecting at 50% entering this quarterfinal.
Shot block that Brandow took, and then the missed ground ball by Bragg. 2 unfortunate opportunities wasted.
The winner of this game will face either Maryland or Virginia in the semifinals next week.
Stay in zone.
Island, the #1 seed and undefeated. Virginia, the two-time defending champion, trying to three-peat, something Princeton last did from '96 to '98. Brown over to Vardaro. Here comes English. He's been able to get some good looks beating his man. Vardaro, another save by Paquette. 15 in the opening half with 2.5 minutes to go.
So the zone seems to be the right call right now. Now, will Princeton get adjusted and into the flow of their zone offense possession after possession? I expect them to make some tweaks.
Krupp! Little penthouse provolone from Christian Krupp. It's 8-5.
Krupp was part of the 2018 national title team. There's only a few left. Chris Fake has won. Brian Tevlin has won. Tevlin, the senior leader, finds another senior leader who's been nicked up most of the season. Andy Shea has a certain affiliation with guys who have been around the program. He believes in Christian Krupp because he knows he can make those type of plays. He's a big, strong, powerful, right-handed midfielder who can let it fly.
He battled a hamstring injury for much of the season. But Andy Shea trusting his veteran, as you said. 2 goals in the span of 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and it started with the shift to zone defensively. Now Leo Johnson. Look at Princeton pressing out. Stevens hounding him.
Yeah, he's the real deal. That guy has a motor. I think he'll eventually play both professional indoor and the outdoor in the PLL because what he does in the middle of the field.
Part of that Culver pipeline that produced Zach Currier. Good defense there by Cahal Roberts. Hadn't played a whole lot, saw some time last week. Krupp again, working to Shorty. Brandau gives it up. He won't challenge Baun. 30 to shoot. Tevlin against Pedersen. Big 6'4" midi. Tevlin feeding Sharp. Shot, save. Here comes Marquez White. And Princeton gets it out before Yale can set up the ride. Finley to Slusher. Princeton has adjusted against the ride. Matt Madelon calls the timeout with 1:02. Now the Tigers have to adjust against the zone. How?
When you look at what Princeton was doing the last few times, they stayed in like a basic 3-3 set. I expect them now to have more of a behind-the-goal presence and changing formations to make Yale adjust. They were stagnant the last few times with their base set. Like what you saw when they came out to play offense is how it ended. You want to change your formations. Go from a 3-3 to a 1-3-2. Make Yale adjust.
Halftime coming up in about 62 seconds. Could be longer. Yale still has a timeout. We will preview the quarterfinal games tomorrow in Columbus. Chris Cotter, Ryan Boyle, Katie George on the call. And then we will break down the Tewaaraton finalists down to 5. A little surprisingly, Matt Brandau was not on that list.
You know, he did everything he needed to this season statistically. So close to the 100-point mark. There's Matt Brandau, leads the Ivy in points per game, and a lot of people thought he deserved more credit because of all the youth around him. I will tell you this, Brandau is a chameleon-type player. He doesn't have to have the ball in his stick. If I'm Andy Shea's staff, I'm putting him inside. I've seen him score at the crease. I've seen him score on the right wing. George Baun is a lockdown defender. Where do lockdown defenders hate to play? Inside, away from the ball. That's what I would do in the second half if I was running this Yale offense. I think put him inside. He's proven he could score inside.
.102 to go, Princeton ball. The shot clock does not matter. The Tigers down 3-1, used a 7-0 run to grab an 8-3 lead. Yale then responded with 2 goals in about 2:30 And that's where we are, 8-5. 7 different goal scorers for Princeton. Lions has 2 of the 5 for Yale.
They'll hold here. There's more time on the shot clock than the game clock. They don't want Yale getting another shot here. 16 saves for Jared Paquette. What a half.
Yale has had Princeton's number of late. 6 straight wins against the Tigers. When do you go?
I like to get my first shot around 15. It gives you another opportunity to go again.
Princeton starts to move it. Slusher to Brown. Comes back to Brown. 10 seconds. The pass to Ronda. Low to high. English from the wing.
See, when you attack that late, now you have 4 seconds for your second opportunity. When you attack and you're shooting around 15, got a real shot.
Brown to Verdaro. Can't catch it clean. And half number 1 comes to an end. This postseason has been a rebirth for Princeton. First NCAA tournament berth in a decade. Last week, they hosted a playoff game for the first time since 2010. They won a playoff game a week ago for the first time since '09. Now 30 minutes from championship weekend for the first time since 2004. Championship weekend on the line, and it's Princeton leading Yale by 3 as we get ready for the start of the 3rd quarter. Yale won the regular season meeting, but so far in this one, Princeton has come out with an avalanche of shots and quality looks. Both teams have combined for 50 shots in that opening half. Princeton with 30, 23 on goal. This is a Tiger offense. We know they have 7 guys with 20 or more goals. We're seeing goal scorers from everywhere. They're rotating the ball. When Yale tries to ride, they've made them pay in transition.
Look, if Yale didn't have Jared Paquette, they would be in big trouble. He's had 16 saves. Yale has been exposed defensively, so they went into the zone, which showed me that they have an opportunity to make some stops defensively. But at the end of the day, this is a game that will come down to Yale's offense trying to match Princeton's offense. And freshmen Chris Lyons and Leo Johnson have to play huge because Matt Brandow right now is being bottled up.
Yale jumped out to a 3-1 lead. Princeton scored 7 unanswered to go up 8-3. And the reason Princeton isn't up by more, it's Jared Paquette. He is on pace to break the single-game NCAA tournament record for saves.
Yeah, the singles record is 30 by Steve Cavett in 1991 for Maryland against Brown. Paquette has been amazing. Princeton's been able to slice and dice through this Yale defense through checks, the lack of body, and the sheer athleticism in terms of the quick first steps of the Princeton Tigers are not being matched by Yale's defense. So they go to zone, they rely more on Paquette to make the stops and really challenge Princeton as outside shooters.
For Yale, Matt Brandow, one of the top scorers in the entire country, a non-factor in the first half. George Bond has won that matchup. That's an area where Yale will have to adjust. Either, you mentioned maybe moving Brandow off ball in the first half.
Brandow's done it in his career. I mean, he's played big-time minutes with guys like Jackson Morrill, who's a quarterback, and they put him inside. He could play a Matt Gaudette role if he has to. He could play a quarterback role. The beauty of Matt Brandow's game is how versatile he is. So right now, if he's not going to win one-on-one matchups, put him inside. He's the best finisher on the team. And then you get that guy away from the ball.
Sandoval for Princeton, Ramsey for Yale at the face-off X. And it's Stuzen.
Number 10, Jack Stuzen.
Bounce shot high. Jack Stuzen is going to be a star. He's got 4 goals as a long pole. 5-star recruit, top defenseman in his class coming out of high school. You said during the Ivy League tournament, he's got a little Jared Connors in him.
Long, instant offense with the ball. He's shown the ability to score and feet in transition. Those game records in the middle of the field.
There comes Kropp. Now there's Leo Johnson. Plays it up top to Tevlin. Looking to shake Pedersen. Good defense by Pedersen. Johnson denied by Mulshine. Here comes Sharp. Song, Princeton's top LSM on Sharp. That one hits the crossbar. Pedersen on the rebound. Looking to barrel through the Yale middies, and Sharp takes it away and scores. The freshman out of California, we told you he's going to be a star.
He's a star already. Bo Pedersen on this clear, I think, relies too much on his strength, his brute force, and ability to win a physical matchup. Brad Sharp, the freshman, stands him up. Straight up, Pedersen is a beast physically, and this is the freshman's goal from start to finish. He wins the physical matchup, and he delivers the blow.
As much as the statistics tell you a story that Princeton should be dominating by more, scoreboard tells you it's a 2-goal game. Sandoval flips it. Princeton gains possession. Here comes Stevens. Over to Brown. Working inside. Yale's defense coming out with some purpose. And now Brown working on fake. Anytime a player comes from behind the cage into that goal line extended area near the net, Yale calls that Yorktown, and Chris Fake is the mayor, and welcome to Yorktown hurts.
Yeah, it's a drill they use to deny players goal line extended and above, and he owns it.
Mcassey to Runda. Princeton gets it right back.
Two high school teammates from the Brunswick School in Connecticut hooking up, and Colter Mcassey has been absolutely brilliant in this matchup. We've seen his scoring ability. This time he goes to the rack, splits the double, and then sees another white shirt in front of him, knowing the next layer of that defense will be a player standing ready to rip. And Christian Ronda, that's what 12 in black Ronda does. For Darrow, 19 in black, when you give them time and room, they deliver with an outside shot.
Ronda playing with confidence again. He had disappeared at times against better competition. In the Ivy in the regular season, just 4 for 22, with 2 goals today. After a round 1 hat trick, Oken retrieves this near the sideline. Yale's had too many unforced errors.
That was James Ball again. He's shown you the ability the last 2 weeks. What he did against Zach Cole, and what he's doing in these spots to get these reps.
Remember, Ball was the #2 face-off man coming out of high school. There's pedigree there. There's Carson Kuhl, another freshman out of California. Bragg plays it back to the wing. Shot wide. Lions on the doorstep, save Peters. Johnson the rebound, a new 60. Now Brandow, hands free, and Matt Brandow gets on the board.
What did I tell you before? He can play without the ball. That's the beauty of Matt Brandow. Continue to play him inside, and he will capitalize on those very same scenarios. He's having a hard time finding the one-on-one matchups and getting away from George Bond, but off ball, Matt Brandow always makes those types of plays. It's the step away from the defensive pressure right there. He's not going to catch and try to shoot through the Princeton defense there. He catches, puts his foot in the turf, increases his angles, and his hands are free. Matt Brandow has put together an amazing career so far at Yale. He'll be back next year, but his production is off the charts. Look at the point totals this season.
He has authored one of the best seasons in school history. Face-off violation against Princeton, that's 1. 3 in this half, and Yale will go man up on every successive violation. Tevlin Over to Brandow. No, Peters was there. Rattled the cage. And now Crimmins will try to clear. Yale can set up its ride. Princeton gets it across. With that goal, Kark, Brandow has 98 points. Now in sole possession of third on the single-season scoring list. Only Jason O'Neill and Ben Reeves in his Tewaaraton Award season have more points than Brandow. Another turnover by Princeton. Stuzen off the ground. Princeton now riding. Stuzen hits the deck. Loose ball, Eschbach. Turbines out of trouble over to Christian Johnson. Johnson all the way, and a good look. Mr. Wine, Lions the backup, and Johnson's helmet came off. Official timeout.
He got rocked. I think George Bond.
Yeah, that wasn't welcome to Yorktown. That was welcome to Strong Island.
Well, I told you before when I talked to Sowers, George Bond is relentless. Like, he will fight you. Look at that.
Yikes.
That's been the difference in the game. When a Yale offensive player comes down the middle, you're seeing that kind of ferocious approach.
We see Yale do that to other teams regularly. It's not often you see someone else do that to Yale.
George Bond is a beast, an absolute beast.
Brandow up top to Lions. Kropp's got a goal today against White. Save Peters, snatches it out of thin air. Ahead to Lazaretto, junior from Illinois. 9 saves for Peters. Here comes English. He had a hat trick last week. Vardaro, 4 goals in the first meeting against Yale. Brown feeding inside, shot to score. Sam English from Chris Brown.
It's been a long time since those fans have celebrated with a trip to championship weekend. 5th-year senior George Bond, he knows, boom, hit the turf. Christian Johnson gets rocked, and this is the difference in the game. When a Yale shooter lets it go, they get rocked by a guy like George Bond. Princeton standing up after they score.
Ramsey wins the face-off for Yale. You remember when Peter Baum won the Tewaaraton, and I think it was a hashtag boom boom bomb.
Yep.
As Lions misses wide. We need to adjust that. Boom boom bomb.
Yeah, that was as clean as it comes. It was just a great timed hit. You hear the Princeton faithful screaming Eric Peters, their goalie.
Unlike the first game of the quarterfinal here on Long Island, this is not a 1st to 10 contest. Here comes Brown. Teams have been playing him as a passer, and he has been surgical dissecting defenses. That time Yale collapses on the ball carrier. Loose ball. DeMuth for Yale battling for it. It trickles out in front. Brown's going to retrieve this. Shot clock at 15. Tommy Barnes. Missing the cage. 9 to shoot. Mcassey, top side, trying to get to that left hand. Over to Brown. Dropped it. Yale's got it. Would have been a shot clock violation. Stuzen to push. He's got Hackler. Overthrew him. This one rolling. It dies near the sideline. But last touch, Princeton. Yale ball.
You feel when Yale makes a stop defensively, they're not able to get it out of their zone. And then the turnovers after, right? Like that could have been another turnover.
We haven't seen the crisp passing, especially to fuel that transition offense. Tevlin against Crimmins. And the Yale turnover. There's been too much of that for Yale.
Disaster mode. How many unforced turnovers? Like basic exchanges. That is a disaster.
At least 4 or 5.
Because now you have a tired defense that's been exposed the last month of the season that doesn't have confidence, and you're asking them to make another stop.
Yale turns this one over. To your point, over the last 7 games, Yale is giving up 15 goals per game. In the last 2 games, not counting today, opponents are shooting 37% and putting almost 70% of their shots on goal. There's a Princeton Tiger down. On the defensive side, it looks like Mulshine might be cramps. He's grabbing that hamstring area.
90 plus on the turf. Hasn't been a warm spring either. Like this is the first like scorching hot day that either of these teams played.
Yeah, we were talking to coaches about that, and a lot of them mentioned that this season has not offered many opportunities to play in hot weather. You know, oftentimes we get down to the end, championship weekend, and that Monday game, to be frank, sometimes has been a dud because if you got tired teams and then you throw in 90, 95 degree temperatures, man,
out of gas.
You're out of gas.
I've always thought, big picture, he's got the right idea.
Howard Stern in the building.
I always
King
thought,
of all media.
the biggest game of the season is the national championship, right? 2 teams standing, and they play on 2 days rest. During the season when teams play in conference, the break between games is a week. What are we doing?
What do you want to do?
Give it a week.
Give it a week?
Give it a week. It's the biggest game of the season. They don't play conference games in 48 hours, right? When Yale plays their conference schedule, week in between.
There comes Sharp. Good feed that time from Leo Johnson to Crop. No finish. It will stay with Yale. Shot clock reset. Sharp's got a couple of goals. He's been a tough matchup. Billings tries to stay with him. This one turned away, flag down. And a penalty coming against Princeton. So Yale will send its dangerous man-up unit, which features Thomas Bragg.
Unnecessary, 1 minute. 2-4, unnecessary, 1 minute.
Marquez White.
Took a shot at Sharp. Take a look at this. 13 in White just gets rocked at the end of this play.
1 minute per slot.
This is a very, very high-end extra man unit that has the pieces. Last time out, what'd they do? Turnover, unforced turnover. You have to be able to test Peters with this unit.
Here's Bragg. Leads Division I with 13 man-up goals. They haven't been tracking man-up goals for that long as Bragg cracks. Make it 14. A man-up machine.
He can shoot. And the rules week to week in terms of how you play man-down defense, they don't apply when 45 in White has time to plant his feet, giddy up, back of the net. That's the most feared shooter in college lacrosse, Thomas Bragg.
Thomas Bragg's 14th man-up goal of the season has pulled Yale back to within 2. Kark, you were calling it out before it happened in the booth.
Yeah, look, you're going to be exposed when you're man down on skip pass. We're going to freeze it here. When he's the next man in the rotation, when he's adjacent, you have to send someone up to shade. If he is the next man in the ball rotation and he has time to set his feet, turn and rake, man, it's over. Game, set, match.
They've been keeping track of man-up goals since 2010. And Dylan Donahue from Syracuse has the single-season record, which is within reach. That's 16. Bragg now at 14.
You know, it's so hard. When you're man down, you're always going to be exposed to diagonal passes, Anish, in two-ways. But when Brandow has the ball and he's the next man in the rotation, defensively, you have to treat him differently. You have to shade him.
Ramsey wins the face-off and throws it away. I think that's the second time he's done that today.
You know, I had an opportunity this week to talk to some youth lacrosse players. Kept it pretty simple. I said to them, the more you master the most basic skill, catching and throwing, the better you will be. Yale, in big spots in this game, has not been able to catch and throw. We've seen blown catches on clears. We've seen blown transfers, easy passes.
Now, the only thing Princeton has not really been able to pull away. It's still a two-goal game, even though it feels like Princeton has outplayed Yale for the majority of this contest. Princeton only has 3 shots in this third quarter.
And they're in the zone. So the zone has worked for Yale. That change of pace has worked.
Oken fell down. Mcassey had one hit the crossbar. 6:08 to go in the third.
He's got some guts, right? He's not afraid to pull it. You've seen a lot of young guys on this field. Lyons and Johnson from Yale. Mcassey, freshman.
Vardaro eyes up. Snakes around the crease. English on the far wing. DeMuth keeps him in check. Vardaro against Oken again. Gets free, hands free, and he scores.
Watch the roll here. The roll is timed beautifully for 2 reasons. It allows Vardaro to step away from the pressure and not get bodied by Oken, but it also allows him to free up his hands. Right there, he rolls. Once he feels Oken pushing near his shoulders, it's gonzo right there. That's the timing of the roll. You feel the pressure, that's when you react.
Second for Vardaro today. He had 4 against Yale in March. Kobe Ginder to take this face-off against Ramsey. Ginder wins it clean, plays it back. Here's Stevens.
Think about the turnovers. It's 10-8. You can't give this offense easy possessions that they don't even have to fight for if you're Yale. You can't do it.
Stevens, Atkinson, and Cameron, the second midfield for Princeton. Brown marked by Fake. Mcassey feeding Atkinson. Shot no. Mcassey gets it back off the scramble. Shot clock reset. Another rebound. A new 60 for Princeton. Yale's defense has to dig in again. Here comes Slusher. Alexander falls down. Brown from X. Snakes around the cage. It's not there. Paquette's going to win this race. And Yale's defense holds, and the bench is fired up. $18 saves now for Jared Paquette, sophomore from Long Island. Mcassey tipped it. Tevlin is there. Max Krevsky. The freshman brings Yale back within 2, his 4th of the season, and it's 11-9.
Krevsky with ice in his veins. Someone tap these young guys, be like, this is a big spot you're in, Max. He doesn't care. He goes right after the short stick matchup with speed and velocity with the right hand on the run. That's what it's all about. We saw it in the first game, right, with Chris Kinnett from Penn. Big spots, no problem for these young guys.
5 of the 9 Yale goals have come from freshmen. Princeton wins the faceoff. Ginder. Clean exit. Princeton had that 7-0 run to go up 8-3. That was their largest lead of the game. Yale has been hanging around, though. Down 2, down 3 since then. Mcassey's got 2 goals today. Checked by DeMuth. Nice wing dodge and a low rocket. Sam English. He's so great at creating space, isn't he?
It's unbelievable. He came to Princeton in year 1. He was a short stick defensive midfielder. Where's he from? I've said it a lot today.
Canada.
Canada and Culver. Just knows the position and the ability to create offense. His passing's been on display so much this season with 17 assists heading into today's contest. But his ability to get underneath the defense and let this one fly. Look at the shot. The placement on the righty goalie. Sam English, man. You think about Sam English, you think about Jake Stevens. These guys do it all.
Sandoval wins the clamp. That one goes off the stick of Slusher. That was an opportunity unsettled for Princeton, wasted.
We haven't seen Mulshine get back into the game after what looked like cramps, 43 in black.
Now, the good news for Princeton, beginning the last game, they rotated in a lot of guys on defense. You saw Finley, obviously Bonds, a staple, Stabner, Roberts. Right now it's Bond, Finley, and Cahal Roberts on close defense. Billings is the pole. Billings jars that one loose. Lyons comes away with it, marked by Finley. Tevlin drives down the alley. Here's Krevsky, the freshman.
Set it!
15 to shoot. Tevlin working on Crimmins. Over to Brandow, and a good look.
That's his look when he goes from X and he drifts. When the ball gets exchanged from behind the cage, Brandow normally has money in that spot.
Less than 2 minutes to go in the third. The last 2 full seasons that Yale competed in, they reached championship weekend. They have been the standard of late in the Ivy. Princeton looking to get back to the semis for the first time since 2004. Under the great Bill Tierney, Ryan Boyle was on that team. Mcassey has Ronda on the run. Missed the cage by a mile. 44 to shoot. Less than 120 to go in the third. Mcassey drifting around the cage. Draws the slide. Plays it up top. Brown, one more to the wing. Coming around the crease, the ball is dropped. That was Slusher He has not been much of a factor today. Defense to offense, Johnson.
He can move. You have Hackler and Johnson in there as shorties. That's some speed.
Johnson's another freshman who Andy Shea thinks has a chance to be special and might even be an attackman a year from now or 2 years from now.
When they won it in 2018, Jason Alessi, Ty Warner, the best two shorties unit-wise in college lacrosse. They were lockdown guys.
And guys who could trigger transition. Here's Bragg, hands free, look out. He's got the green light.
Look at this defense. This is
Brandau through the contact. Peter's got a piece. 10 seconds to go in the third.
George Vaughn plays defense, and Gavin Adler from Cornell plays defense. You feel like you can't breathe.
Leo Johnson maneuvers around X, and he missed the cage. Less than 5 seconds here in the third.
Leo needs to take another step upfield to increase his angle. We've seen that multiple times today.
1 quarter to play here on Long Island. Handsome Dan and the Elis need a little mojo. There's a charging Tiger of Rebellion 15 minutes away from championship weekend. We go to stanza number 4 in Hempstead after this. Andy Shea has built Yale into a national power, but the Elis down by 3 entering the 4th quarter. Turnovers have been the killer for Yale.
Just basic transfers, catching and throwing. If Yale can play clean in the 4th quarter, they will be in a position to win this game. But if you can't catch and you can't throw, you have no shot of winning this game. Getting this guy involved in the offense, Matt Brandau, who's been frustrated at times because his inability to get into the flow being defended by George Vaughn. He's 1 for 5 shooting. I think he needs to stay inside as a crease attackman and let Brad Sharp do some playmaking ability from the midfield. Leo Johnson and Chris Lyons forcing them to own their matchups.
You mentioned the 1 of 5 shooting. That was the 3rd quarter. Only 2 shots in the first half. So Brandau at least got some looks for Yale in that last quarter. Ramsey wins the faceoff. And Yale to work down 3. And that's the silver lining for Yale. It feels like this should be a 5 or 6 goal lead for Princeton. It's only 3. Brian Tevlin, Yale's solo captain. He was on that 2018 championship team, as was Christian Kropp. Barging down the alley, plays it back to Lyons. Finley marks him. Alley dodge from Sharp, who pinwheels back around. Almost another unforced error there. Tevlin against Pedersen, draws the flag. Easy call for the officials. Johnson spins away from Roberts. And now Yale can unleash that vaunted man-up unit.
Fouls on Black 23, hold, 30 seconds. 2 hands on it. You grab it. Foul!
What do you think?
That's a hold, right?
That's a hold. You can actually call him cross-check if you wanted to, too, and that would do 30 more seconds in the box. Yeah, you're preventing him from moving.
So if you're Princeton now, you got to press out on 45. You can't give him time and room.
So the inside could be open. If they press outside, the inside with Lyons and potentially Leo Johnson.
Okay, so Lazaretto come out to meet Bragg, but Yale turns it over. That's the 2nd time on the extra man. Yale turned it over before a shot.
When you're on this stage, when you get beat, you gave it your best shot, you can live with it. If you're Yale, you can't live with this right now because of the way you're just giving Princeton the ball. You're giving it back to them.
Andy Shea is as candid as they come amongst coaches. And when we talked to him yesterday, you know, he's told us over the last few weeks as well, sometimes it's hard for him to get a read on how good his team is. Defensively, the lapses, he said, we're still trying to figure it out in practice. We see one thing, we get into games, and it's like they forget their roles on defense at times. There's Fake, the takeaway on Brown, pops it into the air. Paquette out of the cage.
Heady move by Paquette.
Hackler over to Johnson, gets past Mcassey. Chance for Yale unsettled. Johnson brings it in, fires too high, no backup, and Princeton's got it. Freshman mistake. English all the way up into the box.
Defense gets tired. You made a stop. Fake with a great takeaway. Paquette timed the ground ball. You're back on this end.
And now the minutes and seconds start to get precious. 40 shots apiece. Cameron. Here comes Brown, feeding inside. Stevens, no. Still plenty of time to shoot. Brown going to work on Montfort. Looking for English. It trickles to Paquette instead.
We're talking a lot about the Yale turnovers, but if you're Princeton, if Yale's giving you this game, when are you going to close it out?
We saw a little bit of that last week too, the BU game. That final score, 12-5, there were times late in that game where BU was still hanging around, and Quint and I said, this feels like it should be a larger margin for Princeton, but it never quite turned into that kind of runaway. The winner of this game will have to play its best game of the season next week. Maryland or Virginia await. Kaib turned away by Pedersen. 25 to shoot. Krevsky, easy save for Peters. No 10-man by Yale. 14 saves now for Eric Peters after 15 in round one.
How about the goalies today, right? Matchup one, Penn, Rutgers, Birkinshaw, Kirst. Today with Peters, Paquette, this has been next level goaltending.
Q would have liked to have seen it, and for those of you wondering, you know, why Q isn't here, Quint, we're thinking about you. We love you, and your family is in our thoughts. Q lost his brother earlier this week, so we certainly miss him, but he is with his family. Brown shovels this one in, and that is career goal number 100 for Chris Brown. It's his 30th of the season. And how about this list? He is now just the 4th player in Princeton history to have a 30-30 season. The others, David Tickner in '76, Mike McDonald in 2016, and Michael Sowers did it twice.
What a career for Chris Brown. He's scored a point in every single one of his career games, which is just unbelievable. And the ball's bouncing for Princeton. He hangs Fake up. He soaks the initial body check. Fake wins the battle. The ball's dislodged. But Brown has the awareness. Hockey shot. Get it in. Fairfield, Connecticut. He's a first-team All-Ivy for a reason in the development of his game. Early in his career, playing alongside with Michael Sowers, he was the lefty finisher, but his production has been off the charts. 50-point scorer as a freshman. I mean, he has delivered in big spots for the Princeton Tigers.
Yale now backs against its wall. Down 4, 9.5 to go in the season. A trip to championship weekend on the line. Sharp swings it over to Kropp. Logan Solberg out of the box, seldom used. Hot day, depth being tested now. Shot clock reset, Yale will keep it. And we get a call for a timeout from Matt Madelon. Will take one as well. 9:04 to go. Quarter number 4. Winner to the national semifinals in East Hartford.
Execute, communicate, keep it simple, and keep it hard, all right? Let's go. Shot ready on offense. We're passing up good shots. Be aggressive, all right, boys? Hey, let's split. Let's get our systems down. Let's go 2 huddle.
Everything you got. Let's go.
Be aggressive. The words from Matt Madelon. They know what Yale is capable of. They're not going to sit on a lead.
And if you're in the Ivy League and you've dealt with Yale over the years, the challenge for your team is beat Yale at being Yale, right? I mean, that is the reality of all this. Yale has elevated the bar in the Ivy League. But credit Princeton. And when you think about the last 3 years, what this program's been through, answering the bell in this moment's unbelievable.
Less than 9 minutes to go. Here comes Sharp. The freshman's got 2 today. Here comes Kropp. Spins it back to Leo Johnson. Landau camping inside. Sharp! Got that left hand free. Yale within 3.
He's so good, Anish. 13 in white is just a freshman, and we've seen plays in a variety of ways that check every box. Hard hits, ground balls, righty goals, and this time soaking up some pressure with his left hand, finding the opposite corner on Eric Peters. He's been a bright spot for Yale.
A hat trick today for Brad Sharp. Andy Shea, frustrated the last 2 years, not really having lacrosse. Yale went 22 months between games. They had to add 2 new assistants after 2019. Most of the roster withdrew from school last spring to preserve an extra year of eligibility. And you look at where Princeton was, a program that had been mired in a sort of dark age for a decade. 2020, right before COVID hit and the season went away, they were number 3 in the country. They had Michael Sowers. 2021 comes around, there's no Ivy League lacrosse. Sowers transfers to Duke. You didn't have a season last year. Vardaro shot saved by Paquette. And yet Princeton still able to sustain for most of the season. They were in the top 5 in the polls. They looked to be a 2 or 3 seed in this tournament up until losing the last 2 games of the regular season.
It's well said. 2020, Michael Sowers was playing on a different level. The synergy he had with offensive coordinator Jim Mitchell. When I did the the Princeton-Virginia game, Virginia was the defending national champs. Michael Sowers went down to Charlottesville. He was on a different level than everyone.
We come up on 7 minutes to play. Princeton nurses a 3-goal lead. Barnes swivels it back to English, who lost it. Alexander in pursuit. Plenty of time to shoot. Matt Madelon's words to his team coming out of the last break: be aggressive. Still plenty of time left. Tavlin not yielding an inch. Right on the doorstep, Slusher, save Paquette. Big ground ball. Barnes has it, shot clock reset for Princeton. Now he throws it back. That would be over, and back it is. Big break for Yale. And a man down for Princeton. And we get an official timeout. That was Mcassey. That happened right at the spot of where the restart would be. If it's behind the play, you play on.
Mcassey has to leave the game because he's the injured player, resulting into a whistle.
And for Yale, that cost you a fast restart.
Yes.
Here comes Bragg. Wethington trying to stay with him. Kravsky has it go off his cross. You mentioned it, Kark. Simple as catching and throwing. That's been an issue for Yale today. Lions against Stabner. Save Peters. Rebound loose. Comes back to Yale. New 60. Bragg against Andrew Song. He jars it loose. Song off the carpet. Shovels it ahead to Finley. Princeton running. Andrew Song, another senior captain, 1 of 5.
That was as good of a play as you could get as a defender. Making the play yourself, but then the transfer upfield to give your offense an opportunity to take away some clock.
Jared Paquette had 19 saves, a career high against Princeton back in March. He's one up to that today. English getting the pick from Vordaro. Vordaro shot fake. Knocked loose. Yale's defense finally playing with some purpose. Vordaro gets it back. Yale has the backup.
You know how many times we've seen today where Paquette makes a great save or Yale makes a stop, and they just can't get it out on that initial stop.
We remind you, UCLA and Loyola Marymount softball will begin on ESPN News if you're looking for that. 4.5 to go. Johnny Kaib. Here comes Kropp out of the box. Rutgers beat Penn earlier today. The Scarlet Knights will make their first trip to championship weekend. They'll get the winner of Cornell, Delaware tomorrow. The winner of this game gets the Maryland, Virginia winner in East Hartford. Here's Kaib. Can't get the shot off, flag down. And Yale will go man up when they blow the whistle. Free possession if Yale can get it. Yale 1 for 3 with the extra man.
Black 3, 1-minute personal / 60. I'm so sorry. Okay.
A 1-minute man up. It's on Pace Billings. There's the slash. And again, when Yale goes on the extra man, all eyes on number 45, Thomas Bragg.
They play him as a shooter, look for the inside. This is must-have territory for Yale.
Bragg has 14 EMO goals on the season, tops in Division I, including one today. Right on the doorstep, Johnson, no. Save Peters. Kyle Zawatsky had a good look. And Eric Peters with his 16th save. And now can Princeton clear? Rolling, it stays in bounds. Fake, shovels it. Demuth Remember, this was a minute man up, so Yale still has the man advantage for another 15 seconds. Stuzen saved Peters. He had Hackler running in front.
With Paquette's performance, take a second to give props to Eric Peters. Closing the door on all these stare downs in the fourth quarter.
17 saves now for Peters. Vardaro trying to play keep away, dumps it off to Slusher. Peters, another big game stopper. Stuzen with a yard sale, helicoptered it out of the hands of Slusher.
Stuzen's gas, though. He just ran up and down twice. He'll find the box.
Now Tevlin, an endless motor. Montfort. Less than 2 minutes to go. George Bond in the passing lane. Here comes Princeton, and they will milk some clock. The Tigers a little more than 90 seconds away from getting back to championship weekend. It's been a minute. It's been 18 seasons. Vardaro to Ronda. And Princeton can run this clock down. Yale's going to have to press out at some point, unless it's white flag time. Now Paquette out of the cage.
1 minute to play.
A minute to go.
Give credit to Matt Madelon. First full season, 2017, there were some lean years with no playoffs. He weathered the storm. And this is one of the proudest traditions in college lacrosse, the Princeton Tigers. The dynasty in the 90s. The program feels it, Anish.
A timeout by Matt Madelon. Eric Peters in big games this season, Kark. 19 saves against Maryland, 17 against Georgetown, 21 against Rutgers, 17 today. He had 15 in round one. And he stared down Zawadzki with Yale's season on the line.
Stuzen tries to drop a long pole goal past Peters. You mentioned, Anish, he played his best when the stakes were highest, and had to watch the rest of the lacrosse world play into May in 2021, and so did that guy right there, George Bond, the eraser. His career has been incredible. George Bond came to play and shut down Matt Brandau, who had 5 goals and 3 assists in the first matchup. But this defense, who had holes, found a way.
Brandau held to a goal and an assist today. He came in averaging more than 6 points per game, second in the nation. Our Capital One player of the game, it's Eric Peters. The last 2 games of the regular season, losses to Harvard and Cornell. He was sub 40%. 17 out of 27 today, 15 out of 20 in round one. I tell you what, we're taking some hot goalies to East Hartford. Here comes English. Dagger.
The speed of Sam English
Princeton goal
is on display. You'll see it
30th of the season. Score by number 15.
next week on championship weekend. He knows that was icing on the cake.
30th of the season unassisted.
Shot 50% today, but more importantly, that split dodge brings his team to championship weekend, and he knows Yale has owned Princeton throughout the careers of all these Tigers. Not today in Hempstead.
You start diving into the history of this matchup. This is the 107th meeting. For Princeton, they've played Yale more than anybody else. Matt Madelon, like Bill Tierney, started 0-4 against Yale. Tierney then won 17 of the next 19. But Yale came into this one having won 6 straight against Princeton. And that stuff doesn't matter. The past is prologue. Team X has won the last 5 or the last 7. That stuff is out the window. But for Princeton to go through Yale to get to championship weekend, Yale is the standard in the Ivy. They're one of the best programs in the country over the last 5-6 years.
And Yale was able to weather that storm sitting out in 2021. So is Princeton. Hasn't been easy for these Ivy teams. They haven't used the transfer portal. They haven't been able to pick guys from other spots. They lose the guys.
Patterson heaves it into the air. Strong Island is Jersey strong. First Rutgers, now Princeton. The Tigers headed to championship weekend for the first time since 2004.
Congratulations, Princeton.
Princeton finds a way, Anish. And it's going to make Ivy League lacrosse in the coming years that much more exciting. There's a bunch that are at the party now. They're all knocking on Yale's door.
Princeton is back. Princeton in the semifinals for years. They could have taken their team picture on championship weekend. Who they play in the semis, though? Boy, there's history with Maryland. There's history with Virginia. We'll find out tomorrow.
Princeton is back. Rutgers is here.
Princeton, first time in 18 years to championship weekend. Rutgers will head to championship weekend for the first time. A Jersey sweep on the island. Congratulations to Princeton and Rutgers. 2 more quarterfinal games at the Shoe tomorrow. Softball is next on ESPNU.